Okay, let's just jump right into this deep dive. We are wading straight into a classic New York sports media firestorm.
Total firestorm.
And it's one of those that's less about the actual game and way more about the brutal reality of optics, especially when your team is losing.
It's all about perception.
So our mission today is really laser focused. We're going to try and dissect the absolute furor that just erupted around the Giants' rookie tight end, Theo Johnson.
Yeah, and the sources we're looking at, they lay out this really painful conflict. You've got the losing team, you've got this need for player privacy, a very complicated medical designation.
And a player who, at the end of the day, was, just trying to do something nice for his family. So we have to cut through all the noise, the viral outrage, and just figure out what the facts actually tell us.
Right. About loyalty, about the team's narrative, and what it really means to be an employee of a high-pressure team in a city where that spotlight it never, ever turns off.
It's just always on.
Always. And what's so fascinating here is how something so, personal and mundane, an athlete using a scheduled day off, it becomes this huge symbolic referendum on the entire franchise's dedication.
You can't separate it from the context. You just can't.
No, and the sources hammer this home. The Giants' season was, let's be honest, an unmitigated disaster.
Oh, completely.
We're talking about a team whose playoff hopes were gone early. They were the first team in the entire NFL to be mathematically eliminated.
First one.
And they end up firing 3 coaches, including their head coach. That just creates this atmosphere of paranoia.
Exactly. So against that backdrop of just total organizational failure, you get this young player, Johnson, who was just officially ruled out of the Week 18 season finale. And the listed reason, the one that basically set off the bomb, was illness.
Illness, right. And then just hours later, he's spotted courtside at Madison Square Garden for a Knicks game.
Looking perfectly fine, by the way. Grinning for the Jumbotron. If you were trying to script a PR nightmare to validate every single fan's frustration, that is the scene you create.
100%. It immediately establishes this tension, and it forces you, the listener, to pick a side. And the fans, they immediately dubbed it Tankgate.
Of course they did.
Implying there's no real injury, that it's just intentional apathy. And that's the core conflict. Johnson's private reality, a legitimately excused employee on his day off, colliding with the savage reality of optics in New York.
Perception doesn't just equal reality when you're losing. It, completely overwrites it.
It absolutely does.
So let's lock in on the timing here, that crisis point. This all happened on a Friday night, literally mere hours after the Giants' medical staff put out that official report saying he was out.
And that one word was the flashpoint, as you said. Illness.
Illness. And you have to remember, this is New York City, it's January.
Yeah, and culturally, we all default to a very specific image of what illness means in January. The Big Blue Faithful, they're assuming it's contagious or at least, debilitating.
You're thinking flu, you're home, you're under the blankets, you're contagious, maybe you're not feeling well at all.
Exactly. So the immediate logical jump on social media was just pure cynicism. It was, how is he too sick to go block a defensive end, but he's healthy enough to be courtside cheering for Jalen Brunson?
And that juxtaposition is everything. The high-impact violence of an NFL field versus the, passive, comfortable luxury of a courtside seat.
Yeah.
That's what created the outrage machine.
That's the inflammatory core. And it tells you everything you need to know about the mood of that fan base.
Mm-hmm.
The whole Giants season had been defined by underperformance, by just watching the team collapse week after week.
So when fans see a player who's supposed to be recovering, focusing on the team's, minimal remaining dignity.
And he's suddenly living it up in a super visible public place. It validates every single fear they have about the team just checking out. They want singular focus. They want to see the players sharing in the collective pain.
It becomes a perceived lack of urgency, a lack of loyalty.
And that collective anger is exactly what Theo Johnson had to walk into and face when he addressed the media on what the sources called a deeply somber locker cleanout day.
Right. End of a failed season, and he was the story.
He was the story.
To his credit, he didn't shy away, which tells you a little something. But his tone, it wasn't remorseful for going. It was more one of confusion and genuine irritation.
Yeah, his initial response was almost defensive. He basically said, I don't even know why they were talking about me.
From his point of view, the whole thing was completely manufactured by people who had no idea what was actually going on.
And his counter-argument is the detail that gets buried in all that noise. It's the real aha moment if you're trying to be objective.
What did he say exactly?
He explained that his attendance was purely personal. It was familial, a gesture of goodwill. He had gifted his brother courtside seats for his very first Knicks game.
Oh.
Yeah, so it was a commitment made to his family on his legally sanctioned day off, fulfilling a promise that had absolutely nothing to do with whether he could physically play in an NFL game.
He also talked directly about the power of the media narrative, right? He seemed really frustrated by that.
He was. He stressed that once a narrative is out there,
Yeah.
the lazy athlete, the player who doesn't care, people just latch onto that narrative
Yeah.
and they ignore the truth. He said there were a lot of things people aren't aware of that the media isn't aware of.
So he felt like he was being turned into a symbol for a lost season.
A symbol of a lost season and a lack of urgency, yeah, when the real reason was just far more pedestrian and personal.
Which brings us to the next step, the crisis management. The team had to get involved.
They did. And the Giants took the pretty rare step of issuing a follow-up statement. They almost never do that for a single injury report, but they had to clear the air because that illness tag was causing a firestorm.
The very fact they issued a statement at all shows you how bad the optics were. It was pure PR disaster control.
And it was complicated because the flu had apparently hit other players. So a player who is sick being out in public creates not just a bad look for dedication, but a very real public health concern.
Right.
So the critical clarification they offered was a game changer. They confirmed Johnson's issue was, and this is key, emphatically non-contagious.
Okay, so that's huge.
It's everything.
Okay.
They respected his medical privacy, so they didn't specify what it was. Could have been a severe skin infection, a complicated allergic reaction, maybe strong antibiotic that would prevent high-intensity exertion. But that one piece of knowledge changes the whole context for you.
Let's focus on that functional difference because this is the key takeaway in sports medicine. The team confirmed he just wasn't physically capable of the high-impact, bone-crushing environment of an NFL gridiron. That's his job requirement.
Right. So let's say he had a severe tendon issue in his elbow. He can't block, can't secure tackle. But sitting in a cushioned chair at the Garden, not making sudden movements, cheering passively.
Totally fine. Poses no risk to himself or anyone else.
And this is such a vital point for understanding the physical demands of being a tight end. It is arguably the most physically taxing hybrid role in football.
You're part receiver, part offensive lineman.
Exactly. You need the speed to run routes against safeties, but you also need the brute strength to block a 270-pound defensive end. If you are even at 90% health, let alone 85%, and that injury compromises your strength or your grip, you're a liability.
You're not just ineffective, you're putting your quarterback or your running back at risk. The definition of healthy enough to play for that position is incredibly narrow. So, okay, if the injury was real, non-contagious, and the team came out and validated his story, why did this still blow up so much? We have to connect this back to the Giants' cultural history, what they call the Giants' way.
It matters so much because that identity is rooted in the stoicism of ownership like Wellington Mara and the coaching of Tom Coughlin.
A legacy built on 4 Super Bowls.
4 rings. A culture that demands singular focus, relentless toughness, and a public posture that suggests football is life and death, especially when you're facing adversity. It sets a very high bar for public behavior.
A bar that contrasts brutally with where they are now. When the Giants are winning, think that Super Bowl 42 team, players can go out and they're cheered. But when you're losing this badly,
When you're firing coaches mid-season,
every single move is magnified. The optics of being at a Knicks game become, as the source said, brutal. There's just no benefit of the doubt.
none. The fan base is fractured. They're looking for any shred of evidence to confirm their belief that the whole organization has lost its way. They're actively searching for signs of checkout behavior.
And Johnson, through just terrible timing and location, walked right into that trap.
He really did. And the frustration is real because the season was a statistical nightmare. Think about the details. Abysmal turnover margin, an offense that couldn't score.
A defense that was just constantly overworked and demoralized.
When a team is that bad, the fan narrative isn't just about apathy, it's about betrayal. They want to see their players hurting when the team is hurting. They want them in the film room, not the VIP lounge.
We should also probably touch on the 17-game schedule factor here.
That's a great point. We're seeing way more medical designations because the human body just wasn't meant to take 17 weeks of NFL hits. It increases the chances for these minor, non-contagious issues that can sideline a key player and create these kinds of controversies.
But okay, before we judge Johnson only on the fan perception, we have to pivot. We have to look at why he is so critical to the team's future. Why keeping him on the field is a huge organizational priority, this distraction aside.
Yes, despite the distraction, the sources are crystal clear on this. Johnson is vital to the future of this offense. He represents the modern tight end, a matchup nightmare, drawing comparisons to guys like Travis Kelce, George Kittle.
Let's focus on that. Look at his physical traits. He's 6'6", over 250 pounds. He's got that ideal combo of size and speed.
Right. He's too big for most defensive backs to cover, and he's too fast for most traditional linebackers. He just forces defenses into making really difficult choices before the snap.
And he directly addresses a massive weakness the Giants had this past season. They lacked explosive plays, and their touchdown count was among the lowest in the league.
So Johnson is essential as a vertical threat and crucially as a red zone threat. When that field shrinks, you need big bodies with great hands to win those jump balls.
This is where we get into the tactical details for their future strategy, the implementation of the 12 personnel package.
Yes, this is the key. The 12 personnel package is a formation with one running back and two tight ends. And this package is the mechanism that's designed to maximize Johnson's skills.
So explain for everyone, why is that 12 personnel so effective? Why does it rely on a guy like Johnson?
Well, it creates tactical confusion for the defense right from the start. When they see two tight ends and one running back on the field, they are forced to stay heavy to stop the run.
Meaning they have to keep bigger guys, linebackers, on the field.
Exactly. They have to commit to stopping the run, which prevents them from bringing in extra, more nimble defensive backs to help in pass coverage. And that creates this massive leverage opportunity for the quarterback.
So you use play action.
Use play action, and now you have these bigger, faster tight ends like Johnson running routes against slower linebackers over the middle of the field. And that leads directly to those explosive plays the Giants were desperate for.
So the strategy is there. The talent is clearly there. The organization sees him as an essential piece for the rebuild.
Absolutely. The team just needs execution, better strategic communication, and way fewer non-team related distractions that muddy the waters.
Right. The difference between a contender and a bottom dweller can sometimes be as simple as just managing the narrative.
So when we synthesize this whole firestorm, you see these four critical layers that all converged on one unfortunate Friday night.
First, you have the painful optics and cultural expectations of a losing team.
Second, the private reality of a genuine family commitment.
Third, the medical necessity of a specific non-contagious injury.
And fourth, the tactical importance of that player to the team's entire future offense. You really can't understand the controversy without understanding all four of those things equally.
It's a perfect modern example of how pro sports works now. It's never just about the injury report, it's about the narrative around it, and if the organization can control that narrative.
And the sources remind us the Giants franchise has risen from the ashes before. They reference the culture shifts that came with guys like Lawrence Taylor in the 80s or Eli Manning in the 2000s. The road back is long. It requires that singular focus.
And that focus has to be at every level, from the front office all the way down to the locker room.
It does. So I guess here's our final thought for you to chew on after this deep dive. Given where the franchise is right now, fractured, reeling from firings, desperate for a turnaround, what's the real foundational issue for the Giants moving forward?
Is it the deep-seated fan perception of player apathy that this incident brought to the surface?
Or is it the actual management and communication of sensitive player and medical information that allowed a private, non-contagious injury to be weaponized into a full-blown PR crisis? That long road back to success, it requires more than just talent like Johnson. It requires unwavering loyalty and total organizational cohesion, especially in a city where even a Knicks ticket can become a season-defining distraction.